Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the RepPath Podcast. Today we have a special guest, guys, that we're going to focus on medical marketing and how to leverage your relationships. But before we introduce him, as always, guys, some quick housekeeping. Any questions that you have before we start the show, please input them into the chat, and then James will address them with the rest of the crowd about halfway through our show. So anything, it could be hopefully on topic, guys. But if you have any other random questions, please input it, and then we'll be able to address them, as we go through. Secondly, anybody that is not familiar with the RepPath Academy, guys, please, if you're struggling, you're looking to break into this industry, please go on reppath.com. You could learn more information about the academy. But as you go down, some of the commonly asked questions, what companies are we currently working with? You could see a list there. And then some of the testimonials. Guys, these are people just like you that are trying to break in, that have been struggling, that have been getting ghosted. Listen to their stories, and then, reach out to me either via, reppath.com or go on my, just shoot me a DM via LinkedIn, either whatever works for you guys. But make sure you're learning more and getting involved in the RepPath Academy. If you're trying to break in, we can help you break in, guys. Lastly, anybody wants to see a copy of this episode or any other content that we produce for the RepPath Academy, please go on my YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy. It's free. You can subscribe and get all the content, especially, a copy of this episode, which we'll have, posted later today. All right, guys. Other than that, let's get right into the show. So today I have a good buddy of mine who's been in this industry for, just about as long as I have, over 20 years. His name is Brian Dwyre. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Maxim Spine. Has a long history of being in the diagnostics field. So just want to welcome Brian to the show today. How you doing, Brian?
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. So before we get started, though, BD, sorry, I call him BD. His name's Brian Dwyre, so I got to watch just calling him Brian throughout the show. But so, Brian, just give us a little bit of your background, how you started in this industry and how you transitioned to where you are currently.
Sure. Well, just out of school, I was planning on going into finance. We graduated, as you know, 2001, 9/11 happened. So I had to find something else to do. I wanted to get into medical marketing and like pharmaceutical sales. So I ended up getting a job with Dianon Systems, which was owned by LabCorp. And I was just doing some pathology sales. And then my father had, he was always an entrepreneur. He had his own wholesale office supply business, which he sold. And he wanted to get into a new business that was more service driven than price driven. So he ended up opening an imaging center with a local friend of his. He's not a radiologist, in 2006. And I said, Dad, let me come in. I have some experience calling on doctors. Let me see if I can help you grow. So I started with him pretty much right away, probably 5 months after the imaging center opened. And did that for 19 years. We grew, we added a couple other locations. And a year ago, on February 1st, I started my new job with Maxim Spine neurosurgery. So that's kind of the story of how it went. But we went from one location to 3 locations over the course of like 10 years. And then we were managing all those.
Awesome. And for a lot of our viewers, majority of them, they always ask questions related to device or pharmaceutical sales. Yeah. Not as many young reps realize that diagnostics is an actual option for them. Can you walk through, when you started out knocking on doors with different physicians, exactly what a diagnostic rep would do at your company and what were they selling?
Sure. So we're selling a service, much like the neurosurgery business. You're not selling anything tangible. You're not getting a signature from the doctor before you leave. You're going there, you're giving your sales pitch based on the specialty that you're visiting. And then you kind of hope and pray that like this was a good stop and they're going to start referring patients my way. So radiology is great in that sense because you actually, you're going to reach out to every type of provider possible. You're not limited to just spine surgeons, just orthopedic surgeons. everybody, with the exception of really dermatologists, orders radiology in some way or another. So you can go to your gastroenterologist, they're going to order CAT scans, abdomen, pelvis, MR enterography, et cetera. So I had a different sales pitch for every specialist that I went to.
And what would be your goal? Like, so, you're selling a service, but what does that mean? Is it you're selling, give us a little bit more, because a lot of our viewers don't understand exactly what MRI sales means. So
sure. So we had the physical location. It's kind of like going to a LabCorp to get your blood drawn or a Quest, where they have a phlebotomist there to take your blood, to spin it, to test it, etc. With this, we had the physical location in Denville, New Jersey. We had MRI, CAT scan, ultrasound, and X-ray. Eventually, we added more modalities. We added bone density. We added mammography, and this is stuff that people need on a monthly basis. Depends on how sick you are. Sometimes you don't go there for a year, but MRI pays the best. CAT scan comes second, and then you've got like mammo and ultrasound. X-rays pay the worst, but they're a necessary evil in order to get to the studies that pay more and that show more. Frankly, you're going to get way more information out of MRI or CAT scan than you are from an X-ray. Okay. So when I would go, my goal is to ramp up the MRI and the CAT scan volume as best as possible, because they're the best paying and really the most common tests that are going to be ordered.
And so, quick question, because I asked some of our viewers during the week if they had any questions that they want to input into this topic, and this is actually something that I've always been concerned about too. Why do we have to get an X-ray when X-rays don't show you shit every time, and then you have to get the MRI?
Yeah, it's just part of the process. It's like with my neurosurgeons, you need conservative care first. You need physical therapy. You need imaging. You need maybe chiropractic or even pain management before getting that surgery. It's just, frankly, it ends up probably costing the insurance companies more, because when you go to an orthopedist and you know that you did something to your knee, and the orthopedist is like, okay, he can't make that motion. That means he tore his meniscus, right? An X-ray is not going to show that. X-ray is going to show bone, and then the MRI is going to show the tissue damage. But the insurance company makes you jump through the hoops of getting the X-ray first, and the doctors know that it's just part of the process, and it's not going to do anything. It's not going to show anything. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I actually had to do one of those barium swallows recently, which if anybody hasn't had barium in a while, they don't make it any better than it was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. It's still disgusting. But same thing, I have to take this barium test. It doesn't show anything, like it didn't. And then they work their way before they actually get to the endoscopy or whatever they're going to eventually do.
Right. Yeah.
But I know it's something that always comes up with X-rays versus MRIs. But yeah. But staying on that topic with MRIs, for a lot of the reps that are looking to get into this industry, how does the business get paid? And then how would a rep get paid? Now, I know you don't have to get into details on percentages and all, but basically, how does it work? Okay, now I'm a sales rep. I'm out there. I'm calling on Dr. Jones, who's an orthopedic surgeon, say, how does it work? How the business gets paid and how the rep would get paid from that moment on. If you could walk us through that a little bit.
I believe there are some laws on commission being paid out based on the quantity of scans that are done.
Sure.
Now, I was in a different position. It was my family business. So I was, for the first, I want to say 11 years, I built the business with just my father and I. And then of course we had some fantastic employees. We couldn't have done it without them. We had these contracts that were negotiated really by the insurance company, not by us. We had no pull, no power whatsoever, which is why about 6 years ago, we merged with a much bigger group that had way better reimbursements. But we had some of the lowest reimbursements in the state probably. So we had to make up for that with like high volume. As far as paying marketing reps, people get salary plus commission if revenue's up. I believe that you can base a commission on overall revenue, but you can't do it on quantity of scans. Because it was my dad, it was a different scenario where I'd be like, come on, you gotta be kidding me. We're doing great. Give me some more money. So My experience was a little different. Now that I'm in a more structured environment and there's no nepotism involved, and I'm in, working for neurosurgeons, a lot of commissions based off overall revenue of the company.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, nepotism or not,
Yeah.
excuse me, you still have to go out and drive results, which you
Yes,
did.
and I mean that's just I have I'm a hustler. All I think about is business day and night. And my father. I love him to death. He was not very involved in the operations of the business. He would go in the morning, do payroll, and play golf in the afternoon. So from day one, it was kind of myself managing the staff. We have an ultrasound tech who called out. Oh, we don't have somebody to answer the phones. I would answer the phones. And we cultivated a really great environment where we had employees that really cared. And it was kind of like that Disney World thing that I've heard where it's like, if you walk by Disney World and you're an employee there and you see a piece of paper on the ground, you pick it up and throw it in the trash, even if you're not the owner. Like that was kind of the culture that we wanted to put out there, and it worked really well. We had some great managers and some great techs, but when you're an owner, the operations portion of it takes up a tremendous amount of time. And then when I was done with that, I'd just be on the road. So, and to this day, I'm on the road going to 50 offices a day, and there aren't many people my age, certainly, who've been doing this for so long that still go to 40, 50 offices a day.
Yeah, that's great. And a lot of people that's a high number, so it shows the volume. I mean, for me, that's a great sign because it shows how much opportunity there is out there that you can call on that many offices. Who would be your top 3 to 5, not physician names, but therapeutic areas that you'd say, especially for MRIs that are typically have the highest volume?
When it came to radiology, it was like chiropractors, orthopedists, and neurologists. Neurosurgeons can order, they have to do imaging before they do any kind of surgery, right? But a lot of times patients have imaging before they go to the neurosurgeon. Maybe the internal medicine doctor ordered it, maybe the neurologist, maybe a chiropractor, whatever. So when I first started, I had a sports medicine doctor that sent me 60 MRIs a month. And he would be considered a whale, right? I mean, because when we started, we did 0 MRIs a day. So it was like, hey, Dad, how do you think we're doing? Oh, we're doing 3 a day. This is unbelievable. We're doing 7 a day. Wow. So like when we were growing the business, it was very exciting to be like, oh my God, do you think we'll ever be able to do 10 a day? Like, no, probably not. And now we're doing 30 a day. So like, you never understand how it's going to all turn out. But you just got to keep pushing, keep working. But
what for some of the reps that aren't getting into a business per se or not going into ownership, excuse me, what would you say are some like the top things that they should be looking out for if they are, looking to start with not someone that's a big name like a Quest or a LabCorp, but a smaller mom and pop out there? Are there any questions or thoughts that they should be concerned about when they are starting with a new diagnostics company?
Well, I would say if they're young, they should try to get in at the ground floor at a really lucrative specialty like medical device sales, like neurosurgery. The higher ticket items is what I would suggest. Like when I took the job at Dianon, my first job, I was making more than double what they were offering as a loan officer. I was in the mortgage business, and they weren't going to give me the job because they're like, he's not going to want to take a job where he's getting paid half of what he's getting paid now. And I was, rather than avoid what I knew was the case, I said to them, listen, guys, I know you're probably thinking that I'm not the right person for this job, that maybe I'm going to, take this job and leave in a month because I'm not getting paid, you're not offering a salary that's even half of what I'm making now. But I knew the mortgage business was just not something that I was going to do long term. And I explained to them, listen, I want to get in the medical business. I'm willing to start at the bottom. And they really appreciate that candidness, and they gave me the job. And I ended up working there for, I want to say like 2 years before I eventually, my father opened this thing and I went there.
Yeah. But that's great because that leads us, one of the things that you've obviously done well, and I don't like giving you compliments, but because this is a real thing that happens in our industry. There's no secrets here that our industry is very volatile. Okay. It's very rare for individuals to do what you did, lasting 19, 20 years at one company. That's amazing. It doesn't happen to everyone. Sometimes they last a year, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 3 years. And they feel that now I'm starting over again when I have to go to a new company. This sucks. I got to do this all over again. But you've done an amazing job of fostering those relationships where it's not that now you leave and do something else. You took that with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess the question being, how did you, transition from owning an MRI facility now to medical marketing? And what are some of the keys that help you do that?
Yeah, it's hard for me to separate the two, like sales and medical marketing, because it's all really the same thing. I'm calling on, there are doctors I don't call on anymore. Gastroenterologists will never refer to a neurosurgeon. Urologists will never send to a neurosurgeon. It's just like not going to happen. It might be worth to stop there once a year, say hi to the people that I have known for years and drop off some calendars or cards and say, hey, if you or a friend, has a need, this is where I'm working now. But radiology was great in the sense that it just got me to meet everybody. And then you need a good CRM that you can take with you too. So I use Evernote, it's not robust by any means. It's not like Salesforce or anything like that. It doesn't have numbers. I basically take a picture of a business card. And then whenever I go back to that place, I just put the note in that I went back to that place. And if anything significant happened on my sales call, then I'll just put it in Evernote, and I'll put the name of the office manager, if they're in or out of network, what insurances they take, if they do personal injury stuff, all that stuff goes into Evernote, and then I can use that for years and years and years. And that's my own CRM. So if you're starting any job, I highly recommend people to create their own CRM. And it might be double the work, but if you're planning on staying in the medical field, you really want to continue that for as long as you can. And you want to keep all the information that you had, right? You say, all right, this guy's capable of sending. I used to put in every time they'd send an MRI or a CAT scan, I would go in and I'd check PACS. PACS is the name of basically the library that houses the images. And I'd look at the doctor name. I'd look at what he or she ordered, and I'd put it right in Evernote. I'd be like, send 2 MRIs, send two CAT scans. And that was helpful because when I would go into their office, I'd say, hey, you've been sending me a lot of work. You sent me 10 MRIs last week, blah, 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 blah. So having good CRM and holding on to those relationships is super important.
Well, I want to stay on what you're saying here, because that's gold. Because a lot of times, we deal with a lot of entry-level candidates that, for instance, when they're building their resume, and then I'll ask them, well, you're in a sales role. How come you don't have any rankings? You're not showing any of your results. Oh, my company didn't do that. And I don't think they're making it up. I think there's a lot of companies out there that they don't track. They just track, raw numbers. How much did we sell this month? Everyone's involved. Everyone's like a team player. You know how mom and pop is.
Yeah.
But you talked about, which I think is an awesome point. You talked about creating your own CRM. So if I don't have Evernote, I work for, Joe and Brian LLC. They don't have shit here to help me out. What would you do where you can create, what does that actually look like when you're saying create your own CRM?
Well, I mean, Evernote's basically, I don't even think I pay for it. If I do, it's like $25 a year, $50 a year or something like that. And I have over 12,000 entries in it because I've been to so many different doctors' offices. And I also, when we became part of the bigger imaging center, the bigger imaging group, we had 23 locations, and I actually marketed for all of them. So whenever I went to Freehold, New Jersey, I'd go to 50 offices. Whenever I'd go to Middletown, New Jersey, I'd go to 50 offices. So all of them got added into the CRM with all their names and numbers and stuff. But it's practically free.
Did you use anything before them?
Yes, I used a shoebox with index cards. I swear to God. So when I first started out in 2006, I had a shoebox with index cards, and it was in town order. And then when my younger brother joined the company, the first thing he was like, "Are you out of your mind?" So he joined the company like 10 years ago and introduced me to Evernote. And I was like, okay, this is a little easier. Because every time I'd make a new stop, I'd write it down. I'd be like, all right, whatever. And it was, and also when I started, I was using Hagstrom maps. So, I mean, like, to get around town, there were no Garmin's or anything like that. I'm really dating myself here, but that's how I got around, reading maps, so.
James, I got my movie reference, man.
Oh yeah.
This is not a bad one. It's from American Pie. It's
Great
like
movie.
when the older brother hands down his playbook to hit on girls.
Yep.
It's
Well, it wasn't really to hit on girls, but we can use that for PG purposes.
I'm being polite. But yes, he gave him his playbook. But same thing with Brian giving the suit, the shoebox. But honestly, we're laughing, joking around. Yes, that's 20 years ago. That's probably, the technology that we had. But what I want everyone to really take away from this is that you valued your connections that you were making. You weren't just, only keeping track of the whales that you got. There was more in there than just prescribing doctors, and how you took that knowledge, to where you are today and maintain those relationships that are so valuable. I mean, that to me is the main takeaway, and you didn't wait for a company to do it. Back then you could have said, well, there's no way for us to track this shit. So I'm not, I'm just going to go by my memory. I mean, that's what a lot of reps do. And it costs them all those relationships. So I think, we bust and joke around, but that's great that you did that. And I think there's other ways, like if you were doing it today, you're not going to use a shoebox, like would you create an Excel spreadsheet or something where that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, there's nothing more important than breadth of referrals, right? Like you talk about whales. I had that whale who sent me 60 MRIs a month, and I was like, this is great, but you have to continue to grind to get new business, because that can go away like that. And actually one day it did. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Because he worked for the hospital. He was working with St. Clair's. And I guess they said, hey, we've noticed that you've been sending your imaging to Dental Diagnostics. What's going on? And so I talked to the office manager. I'm like, what's going on? I'm not seeing any MRIs from you guys anymore. I'm kind of freaking out. But at the same time, my business didn't suffer that much by losing that huge orthopedist, because we had so many people referring, and one here, one there, one here, one there, that all adds up. And it was to the point where I knew I'd be okay, even if I never got his business back. Now, it turned out I ended up getting a lunch with him and saying, hey, what's going on? Like, I've treated your office like perfectly for the last 2 years, and all of a sudden you just stop sending. Can you start sending again? He goes, yeah, okay. So then he started sending again. So I guess he thought better of it. And then I ended up throwing a retirement party for him and all of his employees. And then when he retired, guess what? I lost that business again. But you have to continue to grow and continue to push yourself to open new offices. So I would just go farther out. And geographically, I mean, I went 30 minutes in every direction from every one of my locations. Like, is it typical that I'm going to get patients from Newark? No, but I went to Newark to Denver. Like, they're going to travel 30 minutes west to go to Denville? Probably not. But you know what? When those prescriptions came in and I opened it up on PACS and I saw, like, well, this is a doctor I've never heard of before. Oh, they're in Newark. I take a picture of it. I put it in Evernote. And now this is an office that I can go be like, hey, just so you know, I saw that you sent me a patient. Just want to say thank you. Do you get patients often from our area? And it was just a lot of hustling. It's just, if you could hit, and you can hit 50 offices a day. Some of these buildings have 15 offices, right, in one building. So, anyway.
Well, that's another great point, because a lot of people listening, excuse me, must be saying to themselves, how's that possible to hit 50 offices in one day? So if you could just elaborate on that, again, we're all about being real here with RepPath. We don't sugarcoat shit. We want to be very real. So realistically, some of those calls that you're making, I mean, sometimes aren't they knocking on a door? Could they be a couple seconds to wait an hour?
100%. I mean, a lot of them are very short. And especially when I was in imaging, it was at the point where the place was kind of running. It's kind of running on its own. Like, you want to go in and you want to say hello to everybody, but it's like they know they're going to call me if they need something. They know, hey, we need more barium, or we need to get somebody in right away. Just call Brian. Like the office is telling, and that would happen all the time when you're managing people and you're like, do not turn a patient away. You cannot do that. That's not your job to do. I will ask a tech to stay late. I'll offer them double time to make sure that they accommodate the patient. That is not your job. But they would still be like, no, you can't come in. We don't have any appointments. I'm like, you do not say no to a doctor. You call me and then I make it work. We move patients up and we open spots up, et cetera. So that was a big part of it. But I forgot where I was going with this. Where did we start off? I don't remember.
No, I was saying how you could call in so many offices, and how sometimes it's a quick call.
Sometimes, it counts. Guess what? If I slide something under your door, that counts as me going to an office. If you're closed, like I'm not going to go there, you're closed, and then just leave because you're not there. I'm going to leave something that shows you that, hey, I'm here. I'm dropping this off. And I try to limit going on the road to new places when I have something new to promote. So like there's always something new to promote, right? It's like, oh, we have a new insurance that we now accept. We have a new location. We have a new modality. We have a new radiologist reading for us. We expanded our hours. We can get people in within 24 hours. We're now doing carotid Doppler ultrasounds or venous upper extremity venous. There's always something new. So same thing with the spine surgery thing. There's always something new to talk about. So you always want to go there with that. This is the reason that I'm here. And you try not to be annoying too, because some people, like the biggest compliment I get from a lot of these attorneys and doctors that I call on is, you're never annoying me. You're never pushy. There's plenty of salespeople who do very well, by the way, being pushy. I don't. So I just try to say, hey, listen, I want to earn your business. I hope you guys will try giving us a shot. I know I'm not going to be your number one place, but I'd love to be on your radar. And that is usually like the softest sale that you could give. And most people do respond to that.
Yeah. And that's a great approach, because you're not asking them to change everything they're doing, right? You're not saying, well, especially, this is another lesson, guys, that you got to realize that they built relationships just like how they built with Brian now. No one's going to just stop using Brian because you're the new player in the town. He's done a lot of good things for that office over the years. They don't want to just drop him just because you're new. So I love that approach where it's not this all or nothing. You got to switch and use us because we're the best. Just give me a shot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure just by doing that,
you're trying to break their habits, and, good luck with that. People get in these habits. They love to, and frankly, I'd be pissed if I gave somebody awesome service for 5 years and then a new imaging center opened, all of a sudden they stop sending to me. I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So you don't want to go in there too aggressive, but like I said, there are some people who are very good at it and it works for them, but I would venture to guess that they have far fewer referrers sending them work than somebody like myself.
Well, and you brought up the valuable lesson there that you could lose that top orthopedist, and then all of a sudden, if that was if you were only focusing on other whales out there, losing someone like that is a crusher. Yeah. But you're able to make up for it with all the other, smaller guys out there that are continuing to send to you.
Right. Yep.
But I wanted to touch on one other thing that you brought up before, because I know it's very important with it. It returns in regards to referrals. Okay, so can you walk us through some of the typical referral patterns between therapeutic areas? So sales reps have an understanding, because you don't see this as much in pharma. Like I really learned this in device. For instance, calling on pain specialists, I realized that podiatrists can be great referral, great referral base to a pain specialist, because they send a lot of RSD patients. That's just a certain type of nerve pain. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the typical referring patterns that you see from neurology to ortho or primary care to ortho, just so they have a better understanding of that?
Well, primary care is where it all starts. Primary care, I would definitely lump with family medicine and internal medicine. This is somebody you go to because you have a stomach ache and you want to do your 1-year checkup and that kind of thing. And they can refer out to everybody. And some of them like to order imaging, some hate to order imaging because, frankly, the pre-cert process is a complete pain in the ass. And a lot of times they want the specialist to order it and the specialist to get that authorization. Now, in our case with the imaging centers, we offered the pre-cert service, which was a good selling point for us because like hospitals didn't offer that service. They'd make the doctors get it. And at the end of the day, the most important thing that you could do to get business is to make somebody's life easier and to add value, right? So like if I'm making your life harder, why are they going to send to me over somebody else? They won't. And then I add value in a lot of ways by I could have somebody call me up and say, hey, Brian, can you recommend a pain management doctor in such and such New Jersey that does PIP, which is like personal injury protection stuff. And because I've been around for such a long time, I could probably give them 4 options and all their cell numbers, So you're adding value in that sense. But as far as, which specialists refer to which, it all starts at primary care and then gets sent out accordingly. But don't get me, neurosurgeons pretty much will send to neurologists, rheumatologists now and again, pain management doctors, chiropractors, and physical therapy. I feel like every patient that walks in the door either gets chiropractic or physical therapy, either before they come see us or after their first visit with us. And then they're all, of course, going to need imaging so we can find out what's going on, with their pathology. If there's a herniation, then they might be a surgical candidate. If their MRI is totally clean, then they're not a surgical candidate, but maybe they need to get some kind of ESI, epidural steroid injection from a pain management doctor. Maybe they need an EMG, which is done by a physiatrist or a PM&R doctor. So I can't tell you what every specialist refers to, but I could tell you what the ones that,
And again, I'm leading with this question. I'm being obvious when I'm leading with it, but now transitioning to Maxim Spine, what was one of the main reasons why they hired you?
Probably my book of business and my contacts. Not only do I know all the regular doctors, but I have a really large referral network of personal injury attorneys, and that's valuable as well. So. But just because I've been around forever and people, we hosted a networking event that was solely based on personal injury on last Monday. It was 100 people. There were 100 people there. We have another event on Thursday. It's going to be a speaking event. All 4 neurosurgeons and a couple of the MPs will be talking, and I'll probably get 130 people there. It'll mostly be physical therapists, internal medicine doctors, podiatrists, probably a few pain docs, and they'll be focusing on like minimally invasive surgery, artificial disc replacement, endoscopic spine surgery, and it's just a good learning experience and good networking event. So, but I hustled so much to get as many people as I could there. I probably invited over 800 people, and I got those emails, a lot of them from stopping at offices and grabbing business cards, and then what I had in Evernote. So when I went into Evernote, I just typed in physical therapist, and then every email I had from every entry in Evernote, that email address was added to the Evite. So yeah, I sent it out to like 850 people or something crazy like that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's how many I sent it out to get 130, by the way.
But that's still impressive because I know a lot of the marketing that I do. And that's still a pretty good response rate, or acceptance rate.
And, it helps that the doctors I work for are fantastic. They're great surgeons. They've been in the area forever, which was another reason I wanted to go to Maxim Spine was, it's not like I haven't had other opportunities to work with other neurosurgeons and orthopedic spine surgeons, but these guys are known for being conservative. So they care about the patients. They're not going to operate on every person that walks in the door. They're conservative and they have great name. Their reputation is unbelievable. One of our doctors has been operating for 30 years, and the founder has been operating for 15 years, and he did surgery on the one that's been here for 30 years. So, they're all excellent surgeons with great CVs, and that's important.
Right. Absolutely. But you know what? I think this is a good time for us to take a break and just pause for a second. James, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Awesome.
I got Daniel P. Quinn. For someone building a career in med sales from scratch, how important is it to understand the marketing side of business? Does that knowledge give you an edge when building relationships?
Is this for me or for you, Joe?
Yeah, for you, and then I can chime in.
I mean, I didn't have much experience, honestly, outside of Dynon systems. So it was just more of a trial and error thing. I think if you just hustle and now with all the technology, you can ask ChatGPT everything that you need to do. And chances are it's going to be like perfectly accurate on what you should be doing. And I get a lot of good ideas from ChatGPT even now. Like I'll have conversations with it. I'll talk to it. I'll tell it, this is what I'm looking to do. These were some of my ideas. Is this allowed? Is this not allowed? Is this something that you think people would frown upon? Or do you think that this is like a full go? So I think that, utilizing ChatGPT is certainly very helpful, but you don't need to read 10 books before you take on one of these jobs. It's not rocket science what we do.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Brian 100%. I mean, the information that you have at your fingertips now to when we first started in the industry is just night and day. That's all right. Don't worry about dogs. But that's such a great point. And we're actually coming out with some AI software, which is really exciting. And I am going to use this as a free plug, but it really is. There's some amazing AI technology that we're focusing on specific towards getting information available to reps before they actually meet with the doctor. So a lot of times you can't meet with someone, you can't get that info, but there's projects in the work to address that, to make them even that much stronger when you're going in there with all the knowledge about the doctor before you even have said one word to them.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I can tell you in my 20 years or 21 years of doing all this, like I think it's only happened once where somebody actually was upset with me that I did not look over his CV and know anything about him prior to my lunch. So I had a lunch with a urologist in West Orange, and it was just going like any other lunch, and all the providers were very nice. And this one guy comes in, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Dr. Blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Hi, very nice to meet you." He's like, "Well, so, what can you tell me about myself?" And I'm like, what? So I didn't know. I wouldn't have been able to know what his name was without him telling me what his name was. Like, I didn't go on the website. I probably should have, right? Okay, so shame on me. But, usually the doctor comes in and says, "Hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so." And he was pretty pissed off that I didn't know about all of his accolades, but I did not get his business.
But that's a great learning point, because a lot of reps, I mean, we've all done that. How many times do you really research a doctor before you get in there?
Especially if you're going to 50 offices a day, you're gonna Google each one right before you walk in and be like, "Oh, this person did this. This person wrote a paper on this." No, you're too busy for that. But it's not a bad thing. If you have an important lunch, an important dinner from somebody who could be like a really great referrer, and maybe you've heard from people that this person could be a stickler, then yes, reading up on that person is certainly helpful. It can't hurt, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I know a hiring manager that we had on one of our podcasts a few months ago, that he said he would ask reps, where did I work before I worked here? He goes, I would ask them all that. He goes, just as simple. Mm-hmm. He goes, they're always going to research where you currently work. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they look for your favorite sports team, whatever. He goes, but the reps that actually just look a job or two back to see my history, he goes, then I know that they gave it a little bit more attention. Mm-hmm. He goes, so I don't count someone out if they don't answer it correctly. He goes, but it does show that you put in that extra time just to see what my previous role was. So, but it's a great, listen, it sucked to be in your situation when that was going on, but I'm sure you didn't let that happen again. I mean, I'm sure it's something that always stuck in your mind. You don't want to get caught with your pants down,
Yeah, no, it was embarrassing and awkward, frankly.
Oh, awesome. But James, next question.
We got Big Mike Grind. Joe, love the show, bro. Brian, can you talk about how marketing supports reps who are trying to get in front of surgeons for the first time? Like, what tools or materials actually help open the door?
So I used to, my old job, we gave away so much crap that, there are weirdos out there that actually care about it. I'll never understand it. I mean, you have a booth and somebody comes by and they're like, do you have any more stress balls? Like, what? What are you going to do with this pink rubber ball or whatever? Like, okay, like, yeah, I might. But I never put any, I think they're the dumbest thing. Like, if you can't sell without tchotchkes to give away, then you're a terrible salesperson. So the things that honestly that I would give away that people care about are pens. So I don't believe if you're a pharmaceutical rep, you're even allowed to. I'm allowed to. I'm not restricted by the Sunshine Act, right, Joe? Is that what's called, Sunshine Act? I'm not restricted. I can give away pens, but yeah, I mean, like, listen, when you're talking about when we would try to expand our breast program, talk about mammography, people would give out roses during Breast Cancer Awareness Month or Breast Cancer Awareness Month, nail files, they'd give baggies, blah, blah, blah. But if you need tchotchkes to make a sale and to get in the door, then you're probably not a very good salesman. That would be my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, Brian's so right. I mean, if you're depending on that pen to get you in front of a doctor, you're obviously doing something wrong. The majority of the stuff that you give to them, and excluding pens, because most pens, they always seem to lose them, so they save them. But majority of the companies don't even give them out anymore. If you're relying on a leave behind, odds are it's going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
So just think of that. Is whatever you're leaving, is it actually going to get? Would you actually wait for the doctor to get this in front of him because it's so important? And usually the answer is no. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're doing, make sure that you're adding value, or there's some message that the doctor would find value in, as opposed to just leaving tchotchkes, because it's just a waste of time.
I agree.
We have Dairy STHBG. Joe, I think this is a little bit more geared towards you. In medical sales entry-level roles, do hiring managers favor industry degrees with no sales experience over proven B2B sellers with 15 years of sales experience transitioning into the industry?
Yeah, they 100% do not care about degrees. As long as you have, most companies, especially pharma, most pharma companies, I'd say 99.9% want you to have a 4-year college degree. Device, majority of them want it, but you don't have to for every single device company. And then distribution and diagnostics, it depends on the company. But the sales experience, and not only sales experience, just because you work somewhere for a year or two, but you didn't have the results, then that's not a good sign either, guys. It'll help you a little bit to know that you've been in a sales role, but if you don't have any sales results, that means you did a shitty job. So why should they hire you too? So having that sales experience with the results, that is going to be your best bet over any secondary degree, like a master's, MBA. They usually just don't care that much about that for sales positions. BD, you can, chime in.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm a URI graduate, so.
Barely too.
At least you got in. I didn't even get in there. We got Karen M. Perry. Brian, as a CMO, how closely do your marketing campaigns tie into relationship building work your reps do in the field? Is there a strategy to make those two things work together?
I'm not sure if I understand the question totally.
Can you repeat that, James?
I'll reread it. Brian, as a CMO, how closely do your marketing campaigns tie into the relationship building work your reps do in the field?
So I'm the only rep. So you're looking at the entire marketing department here. So I don't have anybody that works for me anymore. When I was at the imaging center, I probably had we had 8 reps or something. And for the most part, a lot of them kind of sort of reported to me, at least at the beginning. And then over time, things just kind of shifted where everybody was on their own. But my marketing campaigns, I determine what they all are. So the most recent thing that I've been going around telling people is that we have a new location coming in Verona, and I've been trying to get people to the speaking events that I had coming up. So I had flyers printed out and I gave them all out, and I made sure, and I used Evernote to determine which geography I haven't been to in a while. So, okay, I haven't been here in 3 months. Now's a good time to go. I see in my last note that I gave them calendars, because at the time calendars were new. Now I know I haven't given them the invite yet to the speaking event. That's the new thing I'm going to give them. So I'm going to give them the cards again, probably, so they can make sure that they're referring out to us. It has a new location on it, and I'm going to give them the invite to the speaking event. And it's got the RSVP and stuff on the bottom.
Yeah, but that's a great point. So I think what they were, trying to get more info with, Brian, is that especially for a bigger company, a lot of times what's being told by marketing, it's like the left and right hand don't talk to each other too well. The sales team is saying we're being confronted with XYZ, and then the marketing team is coming out with ABC, and you're like, well, that's not really the problems we're having.
Yeah.
It really is company dependent, and sometimes there's big companies that do a great job, and sometimes there's a miss, but between marketing and sales. But the whole point is, the more that you're interacting with your sales team, the more that you're putting value into what your customers are saying, then you should be coming out with better marketing pieces that address the real concerns of the customer. And if you're not, I mean, that to me is just a miss by whatever company. But for the most part, I think most companies get it. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to purposely ignore what the sales reps are saying, because it's only going to lead to a disconnect.
Yeah. I mean, luckily the neurosurgeons and myself are all on the same page on just about everything, on what's important and where are you going to spend marketing dollars. We certainly don't want to waste our money with marketing dollars and doing something that, like, when I was in imaging, we did a little direct to consumer marketing, and I found out pretty quickly that, when it comes to picking a neurosurgeon, okay, you certainly have your choice. You have your choice in imaging too, by the way, but 99% of people are just going to listen to what their provider tells them. So if your doctor tells you to get an MRI at Dental Diagnostics, chances are you're going to go to Dental Diagnostics. Right. Unless you've had like a bunch of mammos done and all your previous images are at like a different place, like a RadNet or something. But I found out pretty quickly that direct mail marketing was really a waste. It was good to appeal to patients who are claustrophobic, because they'd be like, oh, now I know that there's an open MRI at the Denver location and I'm super claustrophobic. People who are claustrophobic will travel and they will say to their doctors, no, I demand that I go to Dental Diagnostics because they have an open magnet. So, but outside of that, it's really the providers telling patients where to go. It wasn't the patient saying. They're always like, where should I go? Okay, I'll go. Boom. They take my insurance, I'm gone.
Right.
Well, I'm glad I learned that there's an open MRI in Denville, because I am claustrophobic.
Yeah.
We got Chris from New Jersey, another Jersey boy, or Chris from Jersey, I should say. I come from a marketing background and I'm trying to pivot into med device. How transferable are my marketing skills when it comes to building relationships with surgeons and hospital systems?
Joe, I'll let you take this one, because I don't know anything about medical device sales. I really don't.
Well,
I know that people make a decent living. That's not all I know.
But Brian kind of hit the nail on the head before, where he talked about marketing and sales. I mean, guys, it's the same thing. You're going to hear companies talk about, medical marketing. They're sales reps. They're either selling a product or a service. It's that simple. So device, isn't too dissimilar to what Brian does, but as a diagnostics rep, you're never going to be in an operating room. You're never going to be sitting there. I mean, that's the big difference, that, the beauty of being in diagnostic sales is that a lot of times you're making money, or doctors are using you without you there. And that's a huge plus. So if you're going into device, realize not every time, because there's a lot of products out there that could get used without the rep there, but a lot of times you have to be at those procedures, so that part is different. But the transferable skills, the original question, is very similar. It's addressing customer needs. It's handling objections. It's finding out the key drivers of your physicians and then adding value to whatever that is. That's all the same, whether it's device, diagnostics, pharma. So don't look at it and overcomplicate it in that regard, because in an office meeting, from what I used to do in device versus what Brian did in diagnostics, the conversations look very similar in a lunch. We're talking about a device, talking about his MRI facility. At the end of the day, the conversation is similar. They're going to give objections. I'm going to give solutions, but the day-to-day, experiences throughout the day being in an operating room versus mostly just going from office to office is different. But there's so many transferable skills that it's literally handling objections, closing, presenting features and benefits. All those things are exactly the same for device or diagnostics.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You have to be available. People call me, especially when I was in imaging, people call me at night on the weekends. I need to get this patient in right away. The text saying that they want to leave. Can you make it work? Can you get it read? So then I'd have to get radiologists involved. And I would be texting people Saturday nights, Sundays. I mean, if you think that you're going to be good at this business and not answer your phone after 5 p.m., like forget about it. Like this is one of those businesses where you always have to be available. We do a lot of dinners. I do a lot of golf events too, by the way, which is a great way to build relationships. I've made some real friends, like people I hang out with outside of work, where them and their wife would come over and hang out. We make steaks and burgers or whatever. But like you make good friends, especially on the golf course and doing dinners and stuff like that. But it's not a 9-to-5 job. I don't think for anybody that is worth their salt. If you're turning your phone off at 5 and you're not checking your email throughout the day, forget about it. You're not going to succeed.
Yeah. I'm going to say something that's probably going to piss some people off, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. If you're in a job that if you want to make a lot of money and you're only working 9 to 5, there's very few jobs that I know, all the high performing individuals I know, the reps that are making 400 or 500 plus a year, they're in positions that they have to work outside of that 9 to 5. If you're working a 9 to 5 and you're making that kind of money, God bless you.
Go to finance. That's how you make it.
Right. But in the medical sales world, I mean, there's very few jobs. It's just Brian's answer was very real. Any job, any position that I was in that was, a role that you're working with physicians, their lives are unpredictable because the patient's lives are unpredictable. Your life's going to be a little unpredictable too. So be prepared that any of those really rewarding jobs, it's going to take working. And it's not like Brian said, you're answering a phone call or a couple of phone calls at night. He's not jumping into his car to go sit in an operating room. So it's much different than device in that regard. It's answering a few emails, answering a phone call to change scheduling. It's not that hard in terms of the hours that you're going to put in, but you do have to, like he said, you have to be available, because if you're not, someone else will be, and you'll lose the business just like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. James.
We lose James?
James, you quit?
Yep. No, yeah, I left you guys. I muted myself because I had to cough. We have Tony Spadani. I've got a strong relationships in my territory, but I feel like I'm not leveraging to the full potential. What does it look like when reps are marketing are actually aligned on maximizing those relationships?
I think what you're saying is maximizing relationships can be difficult, especially when you become friends with these people, because I want to ask these guys for more business constantly. And I have to know how to go about it without sounding pushy or like a jerk, or like I don't value their friendship more than anything. I text somebody today. I said, hey, we have a new location coming. And I just noticed I hadn't seen patients in a little while. So I said, I'm here if you need anything. But it's you have to be very delicate about how you talk to the people that you have these relationships with, because anything could set someone off, and it can be very difficult, frankly, to navigate that. So you always want to get more business, but you just don't want to be pushy, and you don't want the people that you really enjoy and like as friends or whatever to think that the only reason that you're texting them or whatever is because you want their business, right, Joe? I mean, like, it's very difficult to do, but then again, you have to do your job, and your job is to generate business, and you generate business. Like, it's the winter time. If you looked outside, there's like 12 inches of snow out there. I'm not playing golf with these guys. Like in the summer, I see them all the time because we're hanging out and we're doing things outside of work. But it's a slow time of year, and the golf courses are closed. So But you have to keep that business up there and that relationship going.
Yeah, that is so real, guys, what Brian's saying, because you're all going to want to get that strong relationship. We all want that. You want to get to that point. And then you got to worry about getting in the friend zone. Once you're in that friend zone, it actually can hurt you because like Brian's saying, I know so many times I worked with reps, they talk to the doctor about 25 minutes about the Yankees and then about some other bullshit. We leave there, we're like, we literally did not mention the product once. And I get it. Like, I understand the reality. This doctor has been working with you for years, but it's like Brian's saying, there's always more business. There's very few doctors that even Brian with all his years. I mean, Brian, what percentage would you say you can't get another case out of? Like there's nothing more to grow with that doctor. I'm sure it's a very low percentage.
It's zero.
Everyone, you can always get one.
That's why and because you like them a lot in a lot of cases. And don't get me wrong, there are probably some fake relationships that you have with people because you want their business, because there's some jerks out there. But yeah, I would say zero. I think I've burned one bridge in 20 years, and frankly, a radiologist pushed me to do it because he wasn't sending any work, and the radiologist felt slighted by it and kind of had me do the dirty work. But outside of that, you just keep those relationships and you make sure that you're there when they do need you.
Yeah. Yeah. But that, guys, that's something that's real. When you get to that point, you'll really understand what Brian's talking about. And the one thing you want to remember is, even though you're good friends with them, you're there. Like Brian said, you're there with a purpose to sell. That's your primary goal. It's not to be best friends with him, because if that is how you're going to get graded, I mean, guys, you're going to see that's not the way to get the business. You got to continuously be pushing things forward. And like you also said, for a lot of you guys that think, what else can I talk about? There's always something to talk about. There's always something new. It doesn't have to be the most groundbreaking thing, but like Brian said, you could have new hours. There could be one new feature that you're talking about, one new case study. Always keep it fresh, and that'll keep the conversation fresh, and that'll lead to more business.
Well said. Yes, I agree.
I got Packers fan Matt. What kills a surgeon's relationship faster? Bad marketing that overpromises, or a rep who doesn't follow through?
Well, a rep is a marketer, right? So it's kind of the same thing, I would say, right? I mean, it's a rep that doesn't follow through, forget it. I mean, you have to stay on top of it, or else you're worthless. You have to. And if somebody asks you to get you something and you don't get it back to them, there's just no excuse, especially with technology today. I'll say, hey, Siri, make a note to call blah, blah, blah. And I did miss Joe's podcast last month, but that was the one exception where I did not put it directly into my calendar at the time that I spoke to him. But there really is no excuse. And what I use actually is, if you have an iPhone, which 99% of people do, you have the voice memo function. What I do is I push the recording, and this way I don't forget anything, because my memory is pretty bad, by the way. And frankly, I have a lot going on with work. There's 100 different things going on at once. You're checking your emails. You have to get back to this person, that attorney, that doctor, whatever. You have to do something to stay organized and make sure that you're getting back to everyone. So would you agree, Joe?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I forgot what the other option was, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't get back to someone. You can't blame the company for the marketing. I mean, that'll all be excuses, guys. You control the controllables. So getting back to someone is a non-negotiable. You have to get back to them, and you have to get back to them in a timely manner. Just always realize that if you don't do it, your competition will. So it's okay to lose out because the competition now lowers the price and your company can't compete. That's out of your control. But if you're losing because you didn't call back a doctor, I mean, that's unacceptable. You don't deserve the business.
Yeah.
So I agree 100%.
Do we have time for one more?
One more, yeah.
All right, cool. Bree loves things. How has the way reps built relationships with surgeons changed now that there's so much more digital marketing, social media involved? Is the old school handshake still king?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. social media can be good for, you want to get your Google page up there so that people get to your website and you're kind of listed at the top when you Google neurosurgeon in New Jersey. But yes, it's really just about relationships. I don't think that's ever going to change, frankly. Don't get me wrong. You can target people like what I said with the imaging, like targeting claustrophobic patients. You can target people with our neurosurgeons. I have a neurosurgeon who speaks Arabic. I have a neurosurgeon who speaks Korean. You can place Google ads or Instagram ads or something like that in areas that have like a high population of Arabic speaking people, and then I have a Polish nurse practitioner. So there are ways to do targeted ads because a lot of times they want to go to someone who speaks their language, right? But the handshake, I don't think anything's ever going to topple that.
No, these guys, these aren't replacements. Social media, all the other platforms that we use to get our messaging across, it's another tool, but it's never going to replace that handshake and sitting down and talking to someone and to have that type of access. I mean, that's gold. So you're going to see that in this industry. Brian, I'm sure could talk, hours about that, how the lack of access, how it gets worse and worse in our industry. So you do need these other tools to, get around that. But if you have the opportunity to shake someone's hand and, break bread, have a conversation, whatever it is, there's nothing that's going to ever replace that.
So, that's all I got for you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, James. And thank you to everyone asking those questions. There are a lot of good questions out there, guys. Before we go though, Brian, any last pieces of advice for anyone that's looking to break into the diagnostics field? Just if you were doing it all over again, again, good, bad, and ugly, what would you tell them?
Radiology is a fantastic field that a lot of people don't think about. And frankly, there's a lot of imaging centers around,
What was that? It was kind of broken up.
I said radiology is a great field to get into. And there's plenty of competition. So there's plenty of imaging centers to apply to. And frankly, you're going to be on the road all day anyway. So you can really go 45 minutes away and interview at an imaging center. Every town basically has an imaging center or at least one. And it's a great business to be in because frankly, it's interesting. It's on you because most of the doctors that are ordering radiology studies, they're not relying on they're relying on the radiologist read, but they can't read it themselves. So unless you're an orthopedist who's looking at images and throwing them up on the light box or, looking at it on the computer, like they're the one, they might question a radiologist read, but for the most part, it's like internal medicine doctors don't know how to read MRIs. Like a lot of these doctors don't know how to read it. So they're just relying on the radiologist. So it's not really the radiologist they're relying on. Like they want that sales rep. So you can win that business because frankly, they don't know the difference as long as you're providing them a good service and getting the reports done quickly and making their life easier. But I love radiology. It's a very interesting field, and there's a lot of opportunity, and you meet every type of doctor. So it's good stepping stone as well if you want to go into something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm glad he brought up at the end, guys, because a lot of you may think that if you're working for a radiology company, you're only calling on radiologists, and that's a complete opposite. You're actually calling on all the other doctors. The radiologists are just reading the reports, but you're opening yourself up to all these different therapeutic areas that in time, it's those relationships that other companies reach out for. And they say, hey, this person worked at, Denville Diagnostics, so they must know all the orthopedics in Morris County and Hunterdon County. This is a rep that I want to poach, and they will poach you because I do it as on the recruiting end of our business. I search people that way. Yeah. So it really is. It's a tremendous field just to open up avenues for you later on by knowing all those different physicians.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a pharmaceutical company that has a weight loss drug or something and gastroenterologists are the ones that prescribe it, guess what? If you're in imaging, you're calling on all the gastro doctors. So it works for everything, really, with the exception of dermatologists.
Yeah. No, that's great. Great advice, man. And thank you again. And guys, again, remember, if you want to get a copy of this podcast and all the other content that we have, please click right below on YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy. It's 100% free. You subscribe, you'll get all our content, all previous content, and everything else that we're coming out with, pretty much on a daily basis now. And one more time, guys, for all of you that have not looked into the RepPath Academy, please go on reppath.com to learn more. Shoot me a DM. If you have any other questions, we can talk about it. But if you're struggling and you're trying to break in, this is the answer, guys. So please do that. And for any of you reps out there that are lobby members, please make sure that when you reach out to me to include the promo code Licata. That's LICATA. You can see it in the bottom corner of the screen. LICATA. Please submit that code if you're a lobby member to get you additional discounts. But I want to thank everyone for joining. I want to thank Brian again. This is a great show, man. I appreciate it. And if I don't talk to you guys, have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.